Oregon Governor Tina Kotek is also addressing this issue.
Yeah, she is in Salem this afternoon announcing transportation. A funding bill has finally passed through the special session. It just needs her signature. But she'll also be discussing a little bit about this possible federal deployment of troops. Let's go ahead and listen into what she has to say.
I'm standing here today with members of a broad coalition who don't always agree on everything, but knew that we had to come together as a state to solve the crisis around the budget for the Oregon Department of Transportation. Oregonians believe, as do the folks behind me and the folks that they represent, believe that having safe, accessible roads is a core function of government. Our highways have to be open. People need to be able to get where they need to go. Whether it's July or January, Oregonians need to be able to travel safely on our state highways. And families from across our state, from Astoria to Burns, require us to stand up. ODOT crews, city crews, county crews, and the transportation departments to make sure roads are open so people can get to work, to school, to critical medical appointments, and making sure products in our trucks across the country, across our state, are actually getting to where they need to go. And they need to be able to do that safely. And let's not forget our emergency responders. When things happen, we expect our emergency responders to be able to get there. They need our roads to be open and safe and maintained. Before the success of today's bill being finally passed in the Senate, there was significant concern. I had significant concern. Lawmakers had significant concerns. City and county leaders had significant concerns that we would not be able to provide the basic services across our state, from cleaning brush to paving, getting rid of those potholes, to making sure our roads across the state were open for business. And today, because Oregonians have come together, we will be able to have an Oregon Department of Transportation and also city and county transportation crews and transit available for Oregonians across our state. We have to make sure our seniors, our veterans, our people with disabilities, people who rely on transit have those resources, and we have to make sure that Oregonians have job security by being able to get to work. You know, our transportation system is going to continue to change as our technology changes and our uses change and our workforce needs evolve, but we still need to have roads. You know, and for years we have known that we've had headwinds and challenges to fund the Oregon Department of Transportation. And now we have uncertain times because of reckless decision-making at the federal government level. So we are focused here in Oregon of solving our problems, and the legislature stepped up with a coalition of partners to get this done, so we can have a functional, safe transportation system. I want to thank our lawmakers who are in their communities regularly listening to people about what they need. And they have been incredible partners to make sure we have the resources to pay for safe, clean roads. So I want to thank them for getting it over the finish line. I also want to thank the League of Oregon Cities, the Association of Oregon Counties, our city and county leaders across the state who have been in partnership with the state for decades to make sure transportation needs at all levels are being met. And I want to thank them for their support. You know, the solution to our budget hole was not simple. We couldn't just solve this problem by disinvesting in things and the other parts of our transportation system that are also important. But today we are celebrating the passage of a bill that took a problem at our doorstep and solved it. We also have long-term transportation needs. Let's not pretend that we've solved every issue with the bill that was finally passed today. We have to continue the conversation about our transportation system and the other things that we need to do here as a state. We have outdated roads and bridges we have to continue to modernize, and we need to continue to work with Oregonians to figure out how to get that done. And to do that, Oregonians have to have deeper confidence in the Oregon Department of Transportation. My commitment as governor is to make sure to take full advantage of the tools that have been included in the bill about oversight and accountability for the agency to make sure people understand that the resources that they will be contributing will get the job done. So with that, I want to again thank everyone who has testified and advocated and spoken up about what they want to see in their communities. This bill today is going to make sure we have the roads and the transportation system we need going forward. It is a short-term solution, but an absolutely needed one, and I'm pleased that the folks behind me who will be speaking have been in partnership to get this done. Oregonians across the state will be able to get to work, will be able to have confidence in their system because of the work that was done in this special session. So with that, I'd like to call up our next speaker, which is Representative Javity. Here, represent.
Thank you, Governor. It's good to be with you. I'd like to also just echo what the Governor said. This is based, we were successful today because of the leadership of several people, Speaker Fahey, President Wagner, Senator Gorsuch, and Representative McClain, and the tireless work of legislators, the Governor's office, who opened their door and made it possible for us to get the information and the data we need. The leadership is why we were successful in passing this fix for our state. Oregonians deserve safe roads, whether they live in Portland or Pendleton or on the Oregon coast. Not a winter goes by where communities like Tillamook and Clatsop County don't have road closures, and sometimes those road closures are the only way that people can get from point A to B. There's no alternative route. Sometimes that blocks them from getting to work. Sometimes that blocks EMT and first responders from getting to people who need that help right away. Often it blocks people from getting to school and from people from getting to work. And while this does increase some of those, the gas tax by 6 cents, which for Oregonians sometimes averages out to about a couple dollars a month. Missing a day of work for people in my community can cost them hundreds of dollars a day. It can cost businesses the customers that they need and the wages that people need to make a living. So I applaud the efforts of everyone involved in this for making this happen. This is going to keep our communities open, safe, and running this winter and in the winters to come. It also means that people in my community who work tirelessly on these roads, who are up at 3 a.m. when that rock slide happens on Highway 101, will still be available to clear those roadblocks for us and to make it possible for our communities to get where they need to go. And I thank them for their work and their efforts, and look forward to continuing to hear from them and work with them on the future Oregon transportation needs. And that is why I helped support and champion this package. And our next speaker will be Jana Jarvis with OTA.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you for the opportunity to have been part of this conversation. ODOT's viability is extremely important to the trucking industry, and we were pleased to support House Bill 3991, which makes long overdue adjustments to Oregon's transportation tax system. For years, truckers have been overpaying transportation taxes by more than $600 million. Even though Oregon's Constitution requires equity between cars and trucks. This bill holds trucking's rates constant for several years while making changes to the way trucking pays their fair share. It reduces the number of weight mile tax rates and adds a fuel tax mechanism, providing a built-in audit tool to ensure fairness, equity, and transparency. Oregon's current system is outdated, difficult to manage, and easy to evade, resulting in Oregon trucking taxes and fees being the highest in the nation. This change in tax methodology is a significant policy change and something we have been working on for decades. We look forward to working with ODOT to implement these changes. Thank you. And with that, I'll introduce Jason Lawrence with SEIU.
Hello, hi. I'm Jason Lawrence, Vice President of ODOT Sublocal 730, and very relieved to be here. The Governor spoke of significant concerns that have been going around for a while now, and I can say there are about 500 people or so at ODOT who had some pretty significant concerns these last few months. So shout out to all of our members who have stepped up with public testimony. Thank you to all of the legislators who have visited our shops and met workers at their sites. It was really it sounds kind of corny, but really a group effort. A lot of people coming together and coming to an understanding about how important, how vital our work really is in all four corners of the state. So yeah, very, very happy to be here. And as I've said a number of times, there's a lot of work ahead still. We need that long-term sustainable funding that the governor and so many legislative leaders have mentioned. But through it all, I can promise you ODOT workers, 730 members are going to still show up and do their job because they are skilled, dedicated public servants, and no matter what's going on here at the Capitol, we're going to be out there on the roads for you. So thank you so much. Should have introduced the next person. That's right. No, you're good. Joe Moore from Ask Me. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I am just here to say thank you to everybody who pushed this package through and preserved the 50-30-20 split. So much of the focus was on ODOT and where the funding was going, and the city and county road workers were kind of getting lost in the process. And it is a cohesive network of dedicated employees who really do tend to the safety of Oregonians and keeping their roads safe, not only for locals, first responders, transit, the local economy. So we at the county level are very gracious that this funding package has been pushed through and that the preservation of the 50-30-20 split went through with it. So thank you. Next up is just Q&A with the media. So I'll make my way to the back. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Roxy?
Hi, everybody. I see you're ready to go. A couple ground rules. I'll be calling on ANCA for virtual switching off. Please keep your questions just for the governor. And I know we probably have maybe a lot of other topics to ask about. That is fine. Let's start with transportation, and then we'll move on. And when I call on you, ANCA's going to bring you the mic so the folks online can hear your question. All right. Dirk.
Hi, Governor.
Hello.
You probably know there's a lot of talk among Republicans of trying to get this referred to at least the tax pieces. My understanding is that that's successful. These taxes are on hold until the voters can wade in. So you've been talking a lot today about problems being solved. It appears to me that if they're successful in getting 78,000 odd signatures, the problem still exists. I mean, what happens in that case? Like, are you still pursuing layoffs? How does that work?
Well, with the passage of the bill today, and it'll work through the process to get to me, I have directed, and the Oregon Department of Transportation has suspended the layoffs, which are really important. I cannot emphasize enough that we are behind in getting ready and hiring up for the winter season, so we needed to send a clear message today that layoffs are gone, we got to get to work, and so that is happening. In terms of referral, Oregonians certainly have the right, and there is a process to refer something they don't agree with. Frankly, I would urge Oregonians to think about signing on to a referral that will take away our basic ability as Oregonians to keep our roads operating. You know, I think sometimes government service, those things that are the best are the ones you don't see. That crew that's out there and fixing that pothole so you don't go through it and you break a wheel and keeps you from going to work and you have an extra expense. Those are the types of things I would hope people will think about if they want to refer this to the voters. I'm going to keep moving forward. We have to have the team at ODOT going forward. Cities and counties need the guarantee that this money's coming. We're going to move forward with the assumption we have this, and we have to move forward for the state, and we'll see what happens. I don't have any information on whether a referral will happen, how it would be funded, or whether it happens at all.
But you're acknowledging if it did move forward even before the vote, if it qualifies, those outcomes you're talking about, those negative outcomes would probably transpire, right? I mean, the new revenue would be frozen.
I am just taking one day at a time. We got the bill done today, so I don't have an answer for that. But what I would say to folks is think twice about referring this. Let's all come together as a state to make sure we have the roads we need.
Carlos Fuentes with the Oregonian. You and other Democrats have said that the proposal passed today is a Band-Aid fix. When would you like to see lawmakers pass a long-term funding plan, and what will your office do to ensure that that process stays on track?
Well, our first goal was making sure that we had basic operations and maintenance maintained, and that's been achieved. And our transportation system needs more than that, and that was a lot of the discussion over the last year and a half that you saw in the legislative session. I know that our lawmakers are interested in continuing that conversation, and I think we as Oregonians should think about transportation being done in segments instead of trying to do a big bill all at once. I think we have to move beyond that, so I would anticipate The next conversation will be a continuing conversation about how do we fund some of the projects we have. And that will be up to lawmakers to start that conversation. And I will certainly support what they need to do, because also having some of these large projects that have been in the pipeline getting towards completion is also important for Oregonians. Can we just stick to transportation first? Thanks. I am satisfied that we have the conclusion of the session and we have the bill we need. At the end of the day, do we get what we need done and the legislature delivered? I also want to point out for folks that sometimes special sessions are not as direct as everybody thinks they are. And in this situation, I would argue we had one member of the Senate who was dealing with life and dealing with health issues. And when he was well enough, he was here. I would also argue back near Labor Day, any Senate Republican could have voted for this package and we would have had it done earlier. It's a shame that we don't continue to have more bipartisan support for transportation.
Yeah, I have a question. Nigel Jacobs with Plan Week. Can you explain why the transit tax increases sunsets? Can you explain why the transit tax increase sunsets in 2028?
Well, I think anytime you're trying to put a piece of legislation together, there's always compromise and negotiation. And one of the changes that was in the final bill was to sunset that increase in the payroll tax after 2 years. That provides an opportunity for continued conversations with Oregonians across the state of how they value their transit systems and how they want those to be resourced going forward. So that conversation is going to start right away, because that is an important piece that now has a clock on it with that sunset in the bill.
Yeah, again, was it Transportation Day? Yeah, go for it.
Governor, two questions. The first is, just as far as the process, when do you get the bill and sign it so officially will become law? And the second thing is the same question I've asked a lot. Can you detail a little bit more about what you specifically have done to urge this across the finish line?
Thank you for the question. Honestly, I don't know when I'll have it on my desk. It'll follow the process. It just got finished today. There's paperwork, so it's coming my way. But because it got done, I felt comfortable directing the agency to suspend the layoffs, which was goal number one. And second question was?
Could you talk more about what you specifically did to lobby
Oh.
the legislature? When it needed to be done to get this?
Sure. Well, when the session ended, I was very clear with folks, we need to come together and solve this. And so we put ideas on the table, talked to a lot of organizations and constituencies and folks who care about the roads, from our city and county leaders to our transit districts to the trucking association, AAA, folks across the state, talked to Republicans about the types of things they'd want to see. I'm not saying they supported it, but I did have conversations. And frankly, we worked all summer long to get to a bill to get us somewhere by Labor Day to resolve this. It took a little longer because of the situation with one senator, but we are done. And I want to thank, in particularly, Kelly Brooks in my office for all the work she did with lawmakers and with working with the agency to figure out how we could get this type of proposal put together and across the finish line.
Yeah,
Hi, Governor. You said that Oregonians need to come together on this bill. Well, I'm thinking about also Republicans who have said that they didn't have a voice with this bill. Would you say, is that an accurate characterization? And is there anything you think you could have done to provide more bipartisan support?
There are a lot of people standing behind me who represent folks across the state who are registered Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. This is a bill for Oregonians. Whether the elected representatives who identify with the Republican Party in the legislature agree with it, well, we see what the vote looked like. And I want to thank Representative Javity for taking his vote in the House. We had lots of conversations. At some point, you have to have a proposal that is viable. Unfortunately, I don't think we saw something that was reasonably viable from Republicans, and as a result, they were not willing to support it. Transportation, going once, going twice.
Governor, today the AG filed a motion to request a temporary restraining order. What do you expect to do back on that, and what else are you doing?
Well, my understanding, there's a hearing at 4 o'clock to talk about timing of when the court will take it up, so I don't have an answer on the on where the AG is, but we can get more information from the Attorney General. Next steps are doing everything we can to delay, pause, redirect, have a different outcome. I'm dissatisfied that there has been no real conversation with the Trump administration. Their desire to call up Oregon National Guard members based on faulty information is highly problematic. And I just want to remind folks that this is tough for the members of the Oregon National Guard. They are our neighbors and friends. They are citizen soldiers who have day jobs. We don't have a clear mission. We don't have a clear timeline. That is very disruptive for the Oregon National Guard members and their families who are tied up in this.
Do the members have an option to say no?
I believe those who take an oath and those who are committed to the Oregon National Guard will follow the chain of command because that is what they are required to do. Even if I disagree with that chain of command. Well, certainly the Attorney General is addressing legal measures to suspend and have a court decide if this is a lawful action by the Trump administration. So I'm supporting fully the tack that he is taking there. I'm continuing to do what we can to communicate with the Trump administration. It's like, you know, here's what happened. Here's what's happening. There were arrests last night. Portland police had significant units out at the ICE facility last night. They are managing the situation in Portland. We are both maintaining the ability for people to exercise their free speech rights, but also protecting the folks on the ground there. And so, as I have told the president, this situation is not an insurrection, does not require military intervention. This is a local law enforcement issue, and it is being handled.
Time for one more question. Anybody hasn't had one? Anastasia, you got it. Anastasia.
So with regards to HR 1 and the significant anticipated impacts both on the Oregon Health Plan, our Medicaid program, and SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, a lot of conversations are happening in the Capitol this week to educate lawmakers and the public about what those mean. We are looking at timelines. At this point, we're trying to figure out what kind of adjustments have to be made in the 2026 session and what would have to be made in 2027. I will be convening a subject matter expert group on the Medicaid cuts to try to figure out how we go next. There's a similar one for the SNAP cuts. Lawmakers are trying to understand this as well. We're all going to have to come together between now and the 2026 short session to understand what we can do to protect Oregonians, manage for budget difficulties, and frankly be creative when the federal government is literally taking our tax dollars away from us to hurt Oregonians. You know, it's a very fluid situation. My understanding is the command that is now in charge of this call-up is asking for information from the Oregon Military Department, but I don't have anything else to share at this point. Hopefully they are consulting to get information on who could be available. Remember, just because you're an Oregon National Guard member doesn't mean you're available right away. Got to look at whether people can get off their job, what the impact on the family. And remember, we have had deployments in the last 12 months. We just had a couple hundred folks come back from Kosovo. It's not like our folks are just sitting around. They need to get back to work into their home lives. And so I hope we are going to get that kind of cooperation for that selection of the members that they're looking to call up. But I don't have any specific detail at the moment.
No conversations on your end with this commander about?
Not for me, no.
All right, we can do one more. Go for it.
So I think given the validity of national news, the Oregon,
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
I think there might be some uncertainty among Oregonians about exactly how things might play out, right? So things move quickly, but how are things going to play out? What kind of certainty, if anything, can you offer Oregonians about how this little piece of the news that is going to progress, how it'll progress with that?
Well, let's remember, Oregonians have been concerned. We have entire communities in our state who are fearful of not only the rhetoric coming out of the Trump administration, but the actions of immigration enforcement that has sent a chilling effect from our schools to our businesses about what's going on. That certainly is not helped by any of this. This administration is very unpredictable. As governor, I shouldn't learn on social media this is potentially going to happen. And I certainly shouldn't get something first of the day on a Sunday morning that this is happening. So this unpredictability is tough for everybody, and my heart goes out to Oregonians who are scared right now. Here's what I would say. We're going to do everything we can to change this outcome, to try to get some reasonableness out of the Trump administration so we don't have to see this in our communities. We do not need military intervention in the city of Portland or any city in our state. But I also have a lot of confidence in Oregonians. I urge you to stay calm. I urge you to continue to express whatever your concerns are or values peacefully, lawfully. Talk to your lawmakers in Congress. Come out to a demonstration or a rally like I was at yesterday. That's okay. That's who we are as Oregonians. I would ask that people not cross the line and have unlawful activity because you will be held accountable. So from my standpoint, let's stay calm. Let's support each other. Let's say to each other, we as Oregonians support each other, even though we have a lot of chaos and unpredictability that we don't deserve. And as your governor, I'm going to stand with you. We're going to figure this out together. And as much information as I can share on a regular basis, on a daily basis, I will. So thank you.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.